Okay, all yours.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Tiffany Torres. I am one of the Regional Food Systems Specialists up in the Northwest District in Leon County. And we also have with us Mallory Foster. And today we're going to be talking about inspiring success through the Garden Educator Training Series. So this is a series that was developed to assist garden educators working with schools or community gardens with professional development that they might need to really act as leaders in their own communities with those gardens. So we've piloted this in a number of counties and will continue to do so throughout the state, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But today is really just an opportunity to give you an overview of what this training series entails and a little bit of taste of some of the things that you can learn if this series is hosted in your county. All right, next slide. All right, so the concept behind the Garden Educator Training Series is that it, again, is designed to support not just teachers, but also community leaders, volunteers, master gardeners, anyone who wants to start and sustain school and community gardens. And it's a monthly training series. So by meeting monthly, we're hoping that, folks can network organically and kind of create more of a broad garden support network by the end of it. So there's 3 core components that we touch on in each of the monthly series: community engagement, curriculum connections, and gardening knowledge. So we'll walk through those in just a minute. Next slide. All right, so the first of our 3 core components that we touch on a monthly basis is one that I think gets overlooked a lot of times, but community engagement. So thinking of these garden educators not just as a teacher, but as a leader for the community. I think the tagline we came up with for this series is inspiring garden leaders, not just garden weeders. So we do a lot with teaching community organizing skills and strategies and providing a lot of handouts and activities that really inspire people to take on their own leadership skills. So, and things like meeting management, storytelling, developing your own team, event planning. We do a lot with grant writing and fundraising. And again, hopefully coming back to honing your own network of support.
And I think this is one of the things that the series does well, is not only helps garden leaders to engage with other parts of their community, but also to network with each other. At least at the series that we've hosted in Pinellas and Manatee counties, teachers especially are so happy to meet other teachers doing this, because many times they're the only one at their school who is in the garden. So they love to meet other teachers who are doing the same thing as them and share ideas, and it just really delights them.
Yeah, and we're very careful to include networking time at the beginning and the end, and we also include, food to make it like a personable experience so that it is more natural to stay and engage with one another. Then our second of the 3 core components are curriculum connections. So this is a lot more relevant to school gardens. The series does invite community garden leaders as well, because community gardeners need a lot of those, community organizing skills like we just mentioned. But we do try and focus on school gardens primarily in this training. So the curriculum connections are really for the school setting, and they're meant to expand the academic reach by using the garden as an outdoor classroom and a teaching tool. So we'll model curriculum from different research-approved curriculums, as well as some from around the country that are maybe a little bit more environmental focused or maybe more STEM focused, things like that. So touching on all these areas that you see here: art, economics, nutrition education, and health, of course, and reading, writing. And then our third component is gardening knowledge. So when you think of a school garden training for teachers, this is the one that most people tend to focus on. But we found by integrating community engagement, curriculum connections, and gardening knowledge, you're really creating a more comprehensive approach to a sustainable school garden program and not just a one and done, we did it for a year and now it's over, which is fine too. Sometimes that is the goal. It's, a short-term garden. And that's one of the things we work on in the series is really trying to get people to understand what the purpose of their garden is. So in this core component, we talk about seasonally relevant gardening skills related to the type and setting of the garden. So this is where we'll be doing, in September, we'll talk about seeding and planting, then transplanting, then harvesting along the way. So you're really doing the work on a seasonal basis as it makes sense and learning about those research-based best practices from individuals at the Extension Office who have that specialty knowledge. And then the other part of the Garden Educator Training Series is not just the core components, but the team that really supports it and makes it stick. So one of the unique things about this training is that it integrates almost all of the different extension fields. So in Leon County, where this was first piloted and developed, we had an individual from the FCS department, the horticultural agent, a sustainable ag and community food systems agent, and the 4-H agent, all involved in teaching in this one series. So you can see, school gardens and community gardens really integrate a lot of those different varied skill sets. And it's a benefit to the agents themselves as well, as they're able to, put this on their ROA and have another outreach event to plug into. And then the other component of the team is really those local, regional, and state partnerships. So it might be something like a nonprofit. In Leon County, we have the Demayan Garden Project, which helps provide volunteer support to school and community gardens around town. The Department of Ag has put their seal of approval on this, and we often work with Chef Paula Kendrick from Department of Ag to supplement some of our cooking that takes place during the series. And then we also have a FAMU extension agent that helps us out with a lot of our orchard and fruit tree management that we do in the workshop series. So this would look different depending on where you are in the state. And who those local, regional, and state partners are that are wanting to work with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Pinellas County, we also had community partners, community garden groups, and the local agents presenting material as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the structure of this, it varies in each county, and right now we have, as Tiffany said, it was piloted. It's been completed 3 seasonal series in Leon County. We hosted it in Manatee County this summer, and in the fall of this year, it will be in Leon, Pinellas, and Orange County. And it's something that FNP is trying to see how it works throughout the state, based on the availability of everybody. But like Tiffany said, people go through the series, the participants go through the series, really form their network because it's 1 month apart. They also can work on things that they learn in between each session, so that in the next session they can share how that went for them. They also create a living history binder, which is a component of helping gardens to have more longevity, so that as people may filter in and out of the garden, that binder holds the history and information they learn in the series that they can pass on to the next person, so they don't have to start all over again with the garden. We also have worked with school districts to provide the teachers with CEUs, so that's at least something that they can receive out of the training. Not only the skills and information they get, but they can also take care of some of their CEU needs as well. And then in addition to the series in Leon County, they had 3 hands-on weekend workshops to get more hands-on with irrigation, pest management, and gardening. During the series, we tried to do a hands-on activity during the class, but it's only a 2-hour class and usually is pretty jam-packed with speakers and activities. So this was an opportunity for them to spend a little bit more time and actually doing some of the the lessons in the curricula and hands-on learning. So do you want to add anything to that, what you didn't?
Yeah, just part of the point of the training series is that the core components are the framework that we want to be sticking to: the garden knowledge, the curriculum, engagement, and community development. But aside from that, every community is different, and so we are trying to design some kind of flexibility into that, whether that's having a lot of individuals who want to dive deeper into these weekend workshops, or maybe we need to take a step back and do more baseline approach. So
So just to kind of midpoint summarize, the series is coordinated by the food system specialist, who brings in other experts and community organizations to teach the classes. We do teach a little bit, but I would say the majority of the teaching is done by agents or community organizations. In Pinellas County, we did have FYCS agent come teach nutrition education during one of the classes. And there's one other thing I was going to mention with the structure of it all.
And we
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that we make sure to integrate direct nutrition education into the series as well for our participants, because those individuals are usually working at FNP eligible sites. So we do 15 or 20 minute nutrition education lesson with the program assistant. So there's definitely a way for program assistants to be involved in this series.
And the last thing I was thinking of was it's a great opportunity also to recruit for nutrition education.
Right.
If your team is looking for other places to do nutrition ed, here is a group of people that are interested and excited about health and have the capacity to arrange more programming at their school. So I think it's also a great recruitment opportunity. We do also try to actively recruit FNP eligible schools and schools where program assistants are already teaching nutrition education, and get those teachers to come to the class if we can, so that they can benefit from having, hopefully, the results being a team to work with at their school rather than just them by themselves, and more support for their school garden over the long term.
Right.
All right, and here's an example of some of the learning objectives for the series as broken down into the 3 topic areas. For the garden, we might talk to them about site selection and designing a garden, and do an activity with direct seeding versus transplanting. For curriculum, we might share something from Life Lab or Florida Ag in the Classroom, in addition to whatever direct education the program assistants or agents are providing. And then we might have someone from a community organization come in and talk about establishing a team or setting a good meeting, or having goals for the garden over the near future or the long term.
Right. So this example is taken from September. So that's just a snapshot of what our 2 hours would entail in September training. And that would change month by month. So overall, you can see that this series is a train the trainer model. We're hoping, and we've seen, that individuals who are participating in the training take this knowledge back to their own communities and train others on what they've learned in the 2 hours per month that they're spending at the extension office. It's replicable. We are, as we said, trying to replicate this in Orange County and a couple of other counties around the state. And we really have seen that there are meaningful partnerships that come out of this series, and that our networks are growing naturally because of it. So overall, it's a comprehensive approach to sustainable garden programs and not just a garden. We're hoping that schools will integrate the garden into the wider school culture of health. Do you want to go to the next slide?
Yes, I'm trying to. Let's see. There we go. All right, so it's that time of year where we can start thinking about and preparing for fall gardens. So for those of you who have been doing this for years, like this is an opportunity to just, myself included, prepare and remind myself of what's coming. And for those of you new to gardening, this is an intro to starting to plan a fall garden.
So this is kind of something that we would go over in the Garden Educator Training Series too in September.
Yes. There's many things to consider when starting a garden, or I would say even continuing a garden that's already built. Obviously look at the amount of space that you have and the amount of kids that you're going to be teaching in the garden, or if it's a community garden, the number of participants that are going to be gardening. You want to consider the type of garden and the different pieces of maintenance that are needed for each kind: raised bed, hydroponic, in the ground. It's a good idea to stagger your days to maturity of crops so then you can harvest things. I think most people would agree that harvesting is the funnest part of the garden. So it's fun to, especially for kids, keeping them engaged, have different things to harvest all the time. So looking at those days to maturity on the seed packet will help you to stagger that. You need to consider what you're going to grow and its growth habit. So if you need trellising for beans, or if you're going to go with bush beans, for example, we'll let you know what kind of infrastructure you might need to plan on. Also, a garden, and I think this is a big component of the Garden Educator Training Series, is it's not just the plants in the garden, it's the experience of those people gardening it. What's happened in the past is really valuable information. So make sure to share that part with the people who really are the ones who own that garden and steward that garden. Similar to days to maturity, you can consider crops that are one and done, like a head of lettuce that you cut and then make into a salad, or cut and come again, which means you can continually harvest it over the season. If you're going to be transporting, some things are much more perishable than others, so think about that, as well as the susceptibility to diseases and insects. For that one, I'd really suggest finding southern adapted seeds. And if you're interested in learning more about that, we can help out with that. But if your seeds are more adapted to our climate, they're going to do a lot better and be a lot less susceptible to the types of fungus and disease that we experience in hot and humid Florida. There's also a number of herbs that grow really well in the fall and are really well integrated into our cooking classes. So I know in Pinellas we love planting herbs, and Chef Donna will use them in her cooking classes. Lettuce is one of those things that you can harvest either as a one and done or a cut and come again, but it's a fun one to do with kids because there's so many different kinds, and probably many kids have never seen red lettuce unless they've been in a school garden or their parents happen to be into it, but probably many kids have only seen green lettuce, so it's something that's got a lot of variety that kids can experience. It's also one of the faster crops. And spinach is another one that probably many kids maybe wouldn't try from a bag, but if they see it in the garden, they might give it a try. There's different varieties, about 40 days to maturity, and it transports a little better.
So speaking of lettuce and spinach, one of the things we like to do in the region in which I work is host salad days. And this was something that we shared as a PSE highlight a while back, but I wanted to bring it up again now that it is fall again and time to start planning your fall garden. So for anyone working at a site where they've seen the garden kind of ebb and flow in terms of use, and maybe they need to rally more support around the garden, but you're not sure how, this method's been really successful for us in terms of planting a garden that will be harvested for a celebratory event. The students and the teachers tend to get a lot more excited about caring for the garden throughout the fall season if they know that in the end we're going to be using that produce for a fun event and we're going to be showcasing it to visitors who are coming to the school. So as you can see here from this timeline, in September, we work with the school to vote on what variety of greens they would like to grow. They can grow a number of other things too, but we mostly focused on greens, knowing that they have a short harvest window and that, or a short days to maturity, and that they're pretty easy to grow. And then in October, we planted a variety of lettuce. We also planted some radishes and other things that we could kind of add to that salad, but lettuce being the main component. And then throughout the season, the garden was really well maintained regularly by the school participants. And in January, right when kids got back from December holiday break, is when we hosted the Salad Day event with a special guest chef and a guest farmer. And you can go to the next slide. And so for this event, we partnered with a local citrus farm that actually was just a couple miles down the road from the school itself in Bloodstown, Florida. And a guest farmer was able to come share with us how he grows satsumas. And I worked with Chef Paula Kendrick from the Florida Department of Agriculture to develop a recipe that really highlighted the satsuma in a salad dressing that we made together with the students. So over 120 students in first through fourth grades participated in this event. It was, we kind of did 45-minute blocks back to back to back. We had program assistants there as well as the EPM and some other food system specialists. And the kids had a great time measuring out the different things that we put in the salad dressing. And then they got to taste samples at the end. Go to the next slide. And if you're interested, Chef Paula does do a lot of statewide travel to different schools. So she would be happy to come to any of your school events, whether it's a salad day or another type of event. So you can see here some of the students in the younger grades who are located on the other side of the school. We provided a container garden to them because the teacher didn't want to walk them all the way to the other side of the school where the school garden was. So they grew their own radishes and we wheeled them over to the event space and they were able to harvest their radishes there that day. And then in the other picture, you can see us making the salad dressing there together with the kids, helping us count out the measurements. Next slide. And so it was a really fun event. Students really enjoyed tasting a variety of different lettuces. And I will add, Chef Paula was able to purchase additional food for the tasting event out of her Department of Agriculture budget. So FNP really only purchased the initial seeds and transplants for the garden. We harvested that, washed it in the school cafeteria using food safety practices, and then that was supplemented into the additional lettuce and other ingredients that Chef Paula brought on that day. And so in addition to that tasting experience, the students were encouraged to write about their experience meeting a farmer and a chef and growing their own salad in the school garden. And they showcased a lot of their stories that they wrote in the classroom in the school hallway, which I thought was really nice. And we also had a number of visitors from the school board that day at the event. So food service director came out. And since then, we've worked with her to do some smarter lunchrooms training with all of her staff, set up the school cafeterias using some of the smarter lunchrooms nudges. And she is looking into ways that she can purchase juice from that farmer, budget pending. So it was a really fun experience, and I just encourage you, as you're looking into planting your fall gardens, to think about different events that you can host featuring the produce that you're growing. Taste tests are a really fun way to get kids involved and open to trying new things outside of the school cafeteria, and then hopefully that trickles into the school cafeteria as well. So if you have any questions about anything that we've covered here today, feel free to type in the chat box. Or if you want to talk to Mallory or I outside of this space, we're happy to answer questions too.
Thanks, ladies. Great job.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.